What the hell is up, everybody? Louie back here again, finally, after a nice break for UFC Orlando. You got Kevin Trailblazer Holland taking on Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Big matchup at 170. Kevin Holland trying to get in the rankings. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson's ranked number 6, which I was surprised to find out. Stephen Thompson trying to stay relevant still, so should be interesting. And then you got Brian Bam Bam Barberena taking on Rafael dos Anjos, making his debut, or he's returning to 170. He's entering the journeyman or fun fight stage of his career, and it should be a banger. It's a little weird of a fight, if I'm being honest, but I'm here for it. I'm going to watch it. So you got a ton of fights, 15 fights in total. You got Matt Schnell coming back. Tied Bam Bam Tuivasa taking on Sergey Pavlovich. That one's flying under the radar. That's like a huge matchup at heavyweight for both guys. And then you got Roman Dolidze taking on Jack the Joker Hermansson. Short notice replacement for Derek Brunson. Huge opportunity for Roman Dolidze. He's been on a tear recently. Hermansson is trying to stay relevant in the division, and Dolidze is trying to announce himself and shoot right into the rankings. So, should be an interesting fight night. 15 fights, 14 now, but let's get into it. First fight of the night, 115 pounds, women's strawweight. You got Yasmin Uruguay taking on Estela Nunes. Two up-and-comers. Yasmin Uruguay took on Jasmine Lucindo, her last fight. In the first round, she was hanging around on the outside, lands a 1-2, and then a body kick, lands some straight shots in the pocket, but then she eats some hooks, and then she retreats, but then she lands a jab and a hook whenever she gets pressed, but then she's able to circle out, not stay around, take too many shots. Then the second round, she rocks with a left hook inside the pocket, and she's able to defend the trip attempts from her, and she lands some 1-2s when she's in and out, and then she backs out of the straight shots from her, and then she starts landing some leg kicks. And then in the third round, she lands a 1-2. She's able to circle away, and then she eats a counter hook off of her and the fight. So it kind of slowed down a little bit in the third round. And then Estela Nunes took on Sam Hughes, her last fight. Looked great in the first round. She's fading on the outside. She looks for some hooks whenever she's getting pressured, and she was pressuring as well, and she was kind of taking it at Sam in the first round. Second and third round, she falls off a little bit. Second round, she backs up, she pumps some jabs, she defends the clinch attempts, but then she starts eating some short crosses, standing at range. Then she gets blitzed and body locked and taken down from there. And then in the third round, she gets pressed, eats some jabs, but she's able to throw some kicks in return. But then she gets cut off, then clinch against the fence, and then she gets taken down, eat some ground and pound to end it. So it kind of fell off there. Estela Nunes plus 255, Yasmin Uruguay minus 305. I'm going to go with Yasmin Uruguay. I know the price is a little insane, but Estela Nunes just kind of falls off a cliff in the second and third round, and Yasmin has a pretty conservative style whenever she needs to be, but then she'll start letting her hands go, and I think as the fight goes on, she's going to be able to start piecing her up from range. Stella might get a little desperate, go for a takedown or something like that, and I just see Yasmin piecing her up. And yeah, you could go with the huge underdog, but like it's the first fight of the night, and I'm just not feeling a huge upset right off the bat. So I'm going to go with Yasmin Uruguay. Second fight of the night, 145 pounds, men's featherweight. You got Marcelo Rojo taking on Francis Marshall, UFC newcomer. Rojo took on Kyler Phillips his last fight, pretty tough one. In the first round, he walks into some crosses when he's stalking forward, but then he presses with the hook, but then he eats some counters, and he gets clinched, and then he gets put in a backpack situation, but then he's able to get out of there relatively quickly. Then in the second round, he chases with the 1-2 and then a hook, but he misses it. Then he eats some straights, and then he's throwing looping shots instead of straight shots, getting a little desperate at this point. Then in the third round, he chases him, but then he gets taken down with a knee tap, and then he gets mounted, eats some ground and pound, he gets submitted with the arm triangle. So, sorry, with the triangle/arm bar situation. But, yeah, Kyler Phillips is pretty good. Francis Marshall took on Connor Matthews his last fight. In the first round, he just backs up, and he's able to slip the straight shots, and he's able to shoot a double leg, and then he lands some hooks when he's inside the pocket. Isn't able to complete it, but he uses that to set up his striking. But then he lands 1-2 at range, and then he goes for the body lock. And then he lands some right crosses at range, and then he gets a double leg off the fence, and then he's able to take his back from there to end the first round. Then in the second round, he lands a 1-2. And then he's able to go behind, drag him down to the mat. Then he lands a left hook and then a straight right. And then completes another double leg. Third round, he backs up and he counters with the 1-2 over top of his jabs. But then he kind of circles off and he pieces him up cuts him off, starts piecing him up against the fence, but then he eats a step-in elbow when he's just kind of standing there at range, not really defending himself. Francis Marshall minus 155, Marcelo Rojo plus 135. It all depends how real you think the Contender Series fade is. I don't know. I'm going to go with Marcelo Rojo because slight underdog. Kyle Phillips, very tough opponent. And didn't show a whole lot in that fight. But Francis Marshall kind of fell off in the later rounds. And he kind of has a tendency to get into some sloppy slugfests. And I like the slight price on Marcelo Rojo. So we'll see. I'm going to go with Marcelo Rojo, but it's pretty close. There's too many fights to call all of them. And then the third fight of the night, 155 pounds, men's lightweight. Got Anton Levy taking on Gennaro Valdez. Levy took on Mike Breeden in his last fight. In the first round, he gets clinched to the fence, but then he gets taken down with the trip. But then he's able to get right back up. And then he just kind of circles on the outside. He dives in for the heel hook attempt. Can't complete it though, but then he eats a hook flurry against the fence. Then he lands a head kick, and then he goes for that heel hook again. But then can't complete it obviously. But then he gets a double to the back, and then he's able to get the cross wrist. So you're like seeing stuff like that, especially in the first round. Then in the second round, he gets a snatch single, transitions to the back, and then he lands a left hook in a firefight, and then he rocks him, but he misses some of the shots, and then he's able to throw a kick, and then he drags him down from that point. And then in the third round, he eats a hook on the fence, but then his double attempt gets stuffed this time, but then he eats a knee to the face, and he falls down, and then he starts getting pressed to the fence, but then he eats some hooks to the body, and then he lands a counter hook, which drops him. So a little wild there, but was able to finish strong. Then Gennaro Valdez took on Matt Favola, his last fight. Quick first round fight. In the first round, they're in a firefight. He lands a knee to the body and then a cross, but then he eats a hook in the overhand from Matt. Then his kick is caught, and he gets dropped with some hooks. And then he lands some counters whenever he's getting thrown at, but then he gets dropped, and he shoots his single, and it's pretty desperate. He gets stuffed. Then he clinches and starts landing some elbows from inside the clinch. Then he gets dropped from a hook inside the clinch, and he gets dropped again. And then he gets his back taken and TKO'd. And this was one where Gennaro got dropped like 4 times. But showed a lot of heart at least. Gennaro Valdez plus 170. Anton Levy minus 200. Yeah, I don't know. I was going to go with Gennaro Valdez for some reason. Yeah, I don't know. I thought he was really tough and hung in there. And Anton Levy just didn't impress me. You know, it's a lower-level fight, though. But minus 200, I didn't really like it. I'm going to go with Gennaro Valdez. We'll see what happens. Moving right along, fourth fight of the night, 145 pounds, men's featherweight. You got a sloppy banger here. You got Darren the Damage Elkins taking on Jonathan JSP Pierce. Darren trying to stay relevant. JSP needs a win over a tough veteran, so we'll see what happens. Elkins took on Tristan Connolly his last fight. In the first round, he pressured with some hooks on the inside, shoots a double, and then he tries to take the back, and then tries to go for the arm triangle, but he can't secure it. But then he lands 1-2, and then a double into full guard, lands the round with some ground and pound. Always nice seeing that. And then the second round, he ducks the jab, and he lands a right cross, and then a 1-2, throws some hooks in the clinch, but then his double attempt to get stuffed this time. Then he gets a double off the fence, takes his back again, but then he eats a hook while he's circling, and then he ends some jabs in close, but then he lands an overhand to counter. And then the third round, he eats the elbow in the clinch, but then he lands a hook. Then he lands some uppercuts and a right cross inside the clinch, and then he gets a double off of his knees, then he takes his back, lands some ground and pound, goes for a rear naked choke attempt, ends the round and the fight very strong. Really like seeing that performance. And then Jonathan Pierce took on Makwan Amirkhani his last fight. In the first round, he defends a single. He lands in some elbows, but then he gets mat return, but he's able to hip heist out, and he gets on top, and he's able to defend a choke attempt on top, and he's able to get to his feet, but then he eats some jabs, but then he defends the single with the Kimura, and then he lands some elbows. And then the second round, he lands some leg kicks, presses, lands some 1-2s, and he lands some straights over top of his looping shots. But then he shoots and he eats an uppercut, but then he's able to get the double, lands some nice ground and pound inside a half guard. Then he gets the TKO around the back. So pretty strong performance from him. Only took him 2 rounds. JSP minus 460, Darren Elkins plus 370. Tough one. I don't like the price. I just don't have a feeling that Darren's going to be able to pull this one out. He had that horrible knockout loss to Cub Swanson. He looked decent. He looked pretty good in this fight, but JSP has been on a tear recently. He's an up-and-coming guy. How long can Darren Elkins hold on? This is just kind of one of those things where you got to read the narrative here. I'm going to go with JSP. I think he's going to be able to beat him to the punch. I think he's going to be able to jab him, keep him on the outside. I think he will be able to defend some of the takedowns from Darren. I think he's going to make him take some sloppy shots. You want to go JSP by decision. Darren, the Damage Elkins, you know, he can't hang in there. It's possible, but decision plus 180, I like that. I don't think he's going to finish him. I'm going to go with JSP here. Fifth fight of the night at 155 pounds, men's lightweight. You got, possible retirement fight. You got Michael Johnson taking on Mark D1 Diakese. Could be interesting, could be boring. Michael Johnson took on, well, I'm gonna look at his fight against Clay Guida because DK's a wrestler now, and Guida's a pretty strong wrestler. So we're going to look at that one. In the first round, he lands some step-in jabs from range, but then he eats a cross when he's lunging in. They get to a firefight. He is able to throw some knees, but then he gets shot to the fence and taken down from there. Defends as much as he can, but he ultimately gets taken down. But then he gets right back to his feet, so he's not accepting it at this point yet. But then he eats overhand, but then he counters back with a nice 1-2. In the second round, he gets pressured back, and he throws some hooks, but then he gets doubled. But he's able to get to his feet, but then he gets pressed to the fence again. Can't get Guida off of him, really. And then he's able to stop the shot and reshoots a single, gets to the clinch though, but can't really do too much from that position. Then in the third round, he gets pressured back and he pumps his jabs while he's backing up. Then he lands a step-in hook that kind of rocks Clay a little bit, but then he gets shot to the fence and he's able to defend, but then he finally gets taken down and he has his back up against the fence, but he gives up his back and then he defends rear naked choke. Just couldn't defend anymore and kind of gave it up in the third round. So Mark Diakese took on Damir Hadzovic his last fight. In the first round, he just blast double into the body lock trip, and then he gets full guard, not a ton of ground and pound, just kind of working without doing much just so the ref doesn't stand it up, basically. Then he gets onto his back with one hook and lands some ground and pound to end the round. In the second round, he lands a body kick, and then a jab to the single, gets a single leg off of the fence. Then he gets a standing guillotine to a hook and an uppercut, and then a straight shot. Wow, the little time he's on the feet, but he doesn't choose to be on the feet. Then in the third round, just pancakes him, stays on top. Doesn't do much. So Mark Diakese minus 315, Michael Johnson plus 260. I'm going to go with Mark Diakese here. The price is a little much. I just don't see Johnson be able to defend that wrestling. I think Johnson could crack him a time or two, but in the third round, I think Diakese's definitely going to get that round. So he just needs to win one more round. I think Johnson might have a strong performance the first half of the first round, but I think Diakese's going to be able to get him down eventually. And Clay Guida is an older guy, good wrestler, but Diakese's in his prime, so I think his wrestling is going to be harder for him to deal with than Clay Guida's was. But Mark Diakese by decision, minus 115, not a bad play, but I'm going with D1 Diakese here. Okay, sixth fight of the night at 155 pounds against men's lightweight. You got Clay the Carpenter Guida taking on Scott Hot Sauce Holtzman. This is Scott's retirement fight. This is probably one of Clay's last fights. So, hopefully it's a fun one. Clay Guida took on Leonardo Santos his last fight. Well, he did take on Puelles, but, he got leg locked really fast. But in the first round of this fight, he circles outside, and then he throws some hooks to work in, and then he throws some hooks, but then he eats a tip. He tried to work in with the hooks, but then he eats a teep kick, and then he gets dropped with the uppercut, shoots a desperate single, but then he eats some ground and pound, and then he gets dropped with a knee to the face. But he survives because he's Clay Guida. But then he pressures forward, and then he lands a long hook, and then he lands a leg kick, and then throws a hook, and then is able to complete the double leg takedown. You can see the momentum shift, and Santos is just exhausted at this point. Then in the second round, he just rushes him with some wild hooks, gets a mat return around the back, and then he takes his back, rear naked choke submission. So classic Clay Guida here. It took too much damage for my liking, but, definitely tough, obviously. Then Scott Holtzman took on Mateus Gamrot his last fight. This was a while ago. In the first round, he gets pressed backwards and he eats a 1-2, but then he gets taken down with the low single, but then he's able to pop right back up there. Doesn't accept it early on, but then he eats an overhand right, but then he lands an uppercut whenever he gets pressed, and he just kind of circles out, trying to stick and move here, and then he gets taken down with the low single again at the end of the round. Then in the second round, he's able to defend this single, but then he gets taken down when he's chasing an uppercut, just kind of lunging forward, getting a little sloppy. And then he gets dropped with the 1-2, rushing in. Then he gets TKO'd with ground and pound. So, tough one, but Mateus Gamrot's a beast. So, Scott Holtzman, minus 170. Clay Guida, plus 145. I'm going to go with Clay Guida. Two older guys. Scott Holtzman's retirement fight. I don't like when fighters come out and say it's my retirement fight. Look at what happened to Frank Edgar, for example. It's just not good energy. And Clay Guida doesn't have any plans on retiring soon. At least he hasn't vocalized it. And I think, the wrestling and that grinding style is going to get him over the course of 3 rounds. Not really too much to say. Plus 145. Two older guys. Go with the underdog. I'm going to go with Clay Guida here. The co-main event of the prelims at 115 women's strawweight got Angela Overkill Hill taking on Emily Ducote. Emily Ducote trying to take that step up in the division. Angela Hill trying to be that gatekeeper, trying to spoil the party and stay relevant. Angela Hill coming off a great win over Lupita Godinez. In the first round, she gets rocked with the right hook, but then she fires back and she's able to go to the clinch, kind of save herself. Then she stalks forward, lands some jabs to the clinch, and then she exits out. Then she lands some hooks and a head kick. Whenever she gets pressed, then she lands a nice jump knee to end the round. Doesn't want to deal with that wrestling, and she's trying to keep her off her. In the second round, she lands a step-in elbow and a jab, but then she gets doubled, but she uses the guillotine to roll through and get up. Very nice use of that. But then she gets pressured toward the cage, but then she starts landing some step-in jabs. She eats some hooks when she's stepping in, but then she gets the body lock trip, and she's able to take her back. So, real quick. So, you know, pretty impressive. Third round, she eats a hook when she's stepping in to throw a jab, though, but then she eats a cross, but she's able to defend the trip, lands a beautiful head kick, but then she gets pressed with some 1-2s, but then she lands a knee and some jabs in the round, and just kind of out-toughed her, and, you know, did not get taken down too much, didn't let it be a factor, so very impressive. Emily Ducote took on Jessica Pena her last fight, and the story of this fight was leg kicks, leg kicks, leg kicks. But in the first round, she slips the 1-2, lands a hook. She defends the clinch attempt from Jessica, but then she's at range, and she backs out of the straight shots of Jessica, and then she just starts pumping those leg kicks, and she does it early and often. She counters a 1-2 with a short right. In the second round, she lands a right cross off of Jessica's blitz. Then she lands a counter left hook, and then she stalks her and then lands a straight combo. Also leg kicks. But then in the third round, she throws a 1-2 leg kick, which wobbles her. Jessica moves back to the fence. And then she lands a right cross, and, you know, that was just kind of kept her at bay and kept bumping those leg kicks and worked beautifully for her. Emily Ducote, minus 120. Angela Hill, plus 100. I'm going to go with Angela Hill, plus 100. You know, middling level women's MMA. She looked really good her last fight. I think Angela could use some grappling here. Obviously, she doesn't want any part of those leg kicks. But, you know, I think she can get in her face and pressure her. I think she can make it a dirty, gritty fight. Land some shots in the clinch. I think it's doable. Plus 100. It's like a coin flip. I'm going to go with Angela Hill. I'm going to go with the veteran here. Okay, the main event of the prelims at 170 men's welterweight. You got Nico Price making his return, taking on Philip Rowe. Nico Price fought a little over a year ago. He took on Alex Oliveira his last fight. In the first round, he eats a 1-2, but then he gets the body lock. But then he gets thrown, but he rolls through, has like a headlock situation. Then he gets on top and then lands some ground and pound from half guard. Very nice work from him. Then in the second round, he stands at range, lands a jab. His kick is caught, and then he gets pushed down, attempts an armbar. Nothing comes of it. Just kind of gets beat up a little bit in that second round. So it's 1-1 going into the third. He eats a cross whenever he's throwing his kick. Then he eats a hook to the body and then a cross, but he lands a right hook in the pocket exchange. Then he lands a right hook, and he goes for the clinch. Then he gets rocked in a firefight. He gives up his back standing, but then he shucks him off, gets on top, finishes the fight on top. Beautiful strategical work from him. Typically really crazy, but kind of honed it in a little bit for this fight. Philip Rowe took on Jason Witt his last fight. In the first round, he eats an overhand when he's coming in, and then he gets double-legged off the fence, but then he gets up at the end of the round, lands a straight right, and then a left hook, so starts getting going a little bit. Then the second round, he gets taken down with a single on the fence, and he gives up his back, but he's able to work it back to his feet, and he stalks, but he gets blitzed with some overhands, but then he gets the knockout with the hook, with the hook, right and left hooks, so just kind of blast him when he's coming forward, just kind of waited for his time, but, you know, lost the first round, didn't get dominated, but, you know, just kind of waited for his time to go. Philip Rowe, plus 115, Nico Price, minus 135. I'm going to go with Nico Price. I don't really like the layoff, but I feel like a guy like him needed it. He kind of takes a lot of damage, and I think the wrestling is going to be a big factor here. I mean, Philip Rowe just gave up the first round, basically, and Nico Price has big momentum changes in his fights. But, you know, Jason Witt, I think Nico Price is going to be able to eat those shots, and I think Price is going to be in his face a lot, and the line's pretty close. I like Nico Price. Tough veteran-ish type of guy, so I like Nico Price here. We'll see. All right, first fight of the main card, Eric "Ya Boy" Anders taking on Kyle Dawkins. Both guys really need to get back on track here. If Eric loses, this could be like he might be on the verge of getting cut. Kyle Dawkins coming off a nasty knockout against Roman Dolidze, and he was building some momentum up until that point. But, you know, so it's kind of do or die-ish for both guys here, but it should be fun. You got two solid grapplers here. Eric Anders took on Jung Young Park, the Iron Turtle, his last fight. In the first round, he gets a single to the fence. and then he gets the body lock. It does it multiple times. That was just move. Just shoot the single just so he could clinch, basically, and so he could stop the momentum of the strikes. Then he just walks into some hooks at range. Then he gets a knee tap, takedown from the body lock. Really nice work. Then the second round, he lunges into the body lock, and then he shoots a double, but he's not able to hold him down very long. But then he lands some 1-2s when he's pressed, but then he gets countered with the hook from Park. He lands a 1-2 to the single, but he's not able to complete it. But then he gets a jab to the body lock, then lands some hooks on the inside. He shoots a double, and he's able to finish the single, but he slides off his back. Just kind of jumped on it, a little too overzealous. Then in the third round, he gets pressured back and eats some hooks, but he's able to shoot this single, and then he's kind of circles out, doesn't really get it, but that's what he would do to break up the momentum and break up Jung Young Park's pressure, but then he gets walked down and eats some hooks and an uppercut at the end. So really competitive fight, not a ton happened, but it was fun. So fun grappling exchanges, lots of movement at least. And then Kyle Dawkins, he got knocked out by Roman Dolidze, like really quick with the knee, devastating. But before that, he took on Jamie Pickett. We got a whole round of data here. In the first round, he gets a snatch single to a double and a half guard. And then he's able to escape the guillotine. Doesn't do a ton of ground and pound, but maintains a solid position. Then he tries to get the backpack, but then whenever Pickett escapes, but then he lands a right cross and a hook in the clinch. And then he gets a blast double, and then he just gets the darts from top position. So... And he gets the submission with 1 second left to go. So, pretty impressive. Jamie Pickett, lower level guy, but Kyle Dawkins finished him in the first round like you're supposed to do. Looks pretty solid, man. Kyle Dawkins, minus 225. Eric Anders, plus 190. Kyle Dawkins is a guy, like, if somebody's below his level, he's going to look really good. And if he's slightly above his level, he doesn't. He'll, like with the Phil Hawes, he looked really good early on, and then the momentum just kind of changed halfway through the fight. And Eric Anders kind of fights the same, just slow, methodical, picks his shots, has power, doesn't land a ton, but when he decides to go, he can really hurt somebody. Kyle Dawkins is coming off that nasty knockout. This line is just a little too wide here. And then Eric Anders is a solid wrestler. I think Kyle Dawkins might be the better wrestler. But I think Eric Anders can put together a game plan. He's been around the block a ton. Kyle Dawkins is still relatively young in his career. Plus 190. I'm going to go with Eric Anders. I think it's going to be a clinch battle situation, but I think the difference could be those big shots inside the clinch from Eric Anders. Ya boy. Second fight on the main card, 185 pounds, men's middleweight. Got Jack the Joker Hermanson taking on Roman Dolidze, stepping in on short notice. Big spot here for Roman Dolidze. He's going to get right into those top rankings. Jack Hermanson trying to stay relevant, trying to possibly make another title run. So, big fight for each guy. Hermanson took on Chris Curtis in the last fight on short notice again. He loves doing that. In the first round, he stays on the outside at range, and he throws a Superman punch and a kick, and he misses, but then he lands a head kick whenever he gets pressed, but then he eats a body hook, but then he breaks off, lands a right cross, shoots a single just to shoot it, not really going for it. And then the second round, he jabs, breaks out of the clinch, circles away, then he lands a head kick, and he rocks him, and then he follows up with a hook flurry, and then some nasty elbows, and really pieced him up in that scenario. And then in the third round, he lands a head kick at range, and he moves in and out with some jabs, and then he cuts him off, but then he eats a hook, but then he kind of circles out, and Curtis was very frustrated, but Jack was just circling the outside, stick and move. Not the most exciting fight, but great game plan from him, especially on short notice. Then Roman Dolidze took on Phil Hawes his last fight. In the first round, he gets pressed back and he eats a straight right. Then he gets taken down with a duck under, but then he lands some elbows from the bottom, like some nasty elbows. Then he goes from armbar, transitions to a heel hook, pops the dude's knee, and then he lets him go because he thinks the ref's going to stop it, and he doesn't, and then he just walks him down, and he drops him with the right hook, and then 2 more of them, and gets the KO. So he was just a wounded animal, and then he finished him off. Great performance from him. The dude is nasty. Roman Dolidze plus 160, Jack Hermanson minus 190. I think Roman Dolidze is very dangerous in this fight, but ultimately, Jack, I don't know who the better grappler is necessarily, but, Jack submitted coming down slim with the heel hook, so, I think maybe the grappling is going to cancel each other out. They're going to stick on the feet. I mean, Jack's hands look decent against Chris Curtis, and Dolidze's coming in on short notice, so how's his gas tank going to be? Jack Hermanson has a gas tank for all rounds. I'm going to go with Jack Hermanson. The price, don't really love it, but I think it's justified. I think he's going to be able to piece him up at range, stick and move. And I think Dolidze is just going to be chasing him. And, kind of like the Chris Curtis fight a little bit. I'm going to go with Jack Hermanson here. We'll see. I like the veteran, though. Okay. And then, yeah, not even the feature fight. You got the third fight on the main card at heavyweight, 265 pounds. You got Tai Bam Bam Tuivasa taking on Sergey Pavlovich. Kind of a weird fight, but I'm here for it, man. It's going to be a slugfest. Tai Tuivasa just wants to prove that he belongs at the top after that great performance, but a loss against Cyril Gane. And then Sergey, he's trying to make his way up the division. So, big fight for either guy. Tuivasa took on Cyril Gane his last fight in France. In the first round, he laid a step-in leg kick, and then he backs into range, and then he pressures him forward, and just kind of really nothing happens his first round, if we're being honest. Then in the second round, he walks into some jabs from range, but then he lands a right hook, but then he eats a jab in return, but then he drops him with a right cross over top of Cyril's jab. Huge moment for him. Can't really follow up though. Cyril Gane is tough as nails. But then he lands a jab and a hook, but then he gets hurt with a body kick like immediately after throwing. But then he eats some teeps and some jabs to end the second round. Then in the third round, he misses a lunge cross, eats a jab for his troubles, but then he gets hurt from some body kicks at range. Then he gets rocked with a head kick, and he eats some straights, and he just starts kind of throwing some wild hooks. Misses all of them. He's going for both though at least, but then he misses a blitz and gets dropped with a short hook, and then just gets TKO'd from there. So, it was do or die, and he died, but he went for it. He fought and dropped him. Really good performance from Tai, considering his rise. Considering kind of came out of nowhere. And then Sergey Pavlovich, he took on Derek Lewis last fight, just pieced him up within like 15 seconds. In a gunfight, questionable stoppage. Before that, he took on Shamil Abdurakhimov. In the first round, he lands a right cross off of his hook, and then he slips the jab, lands an uppercut inside the clinch, and then he kind of breaks off, and then he drops him with the step-in uppercut, and then TKOs him with ground and pound. Just like one big shot took him out. Very scary guy. Sergey Pavlovich, minus 215. Tai Tuivasa, plus 185. I'm going to go with Tai Tuivasa. Coming off of Cyril Gane, not as much time as I would like to, because he took a lot of damage, but he didn't get like brutally, viciously knocked out, where he was unconscious at least. Don't know what that means, but he looks really good. And then this is going to be a gunfight. I think Tai can just eat shots. I don't think it's going to last forever, but I think right now he can eat shots. He ate Derek Lewis's best shots, and it's going to be a gunfight. And can Sergey hold up to that pressure? I don't know, but it seems like a 50-50 type of fight to me. And these odds aren't 50-50. I'm going to go with the underdog in Tai Tuivasa. But you want the whole fight to go over 1.5 plus 185. I like that. It could end really quickly, or it could just drag out. Like Cyril Gane to Tuivasa, that whole first round, nothing happened. So not bad odds on that one. But I'm going to go with Bam Bam here. Shuivasa. All right, the feature fight of the night at 125 pounds, men's flyweight. Finally got a flyweight fight on here. Got Matheus Nicolau taking on Matt Danger Schnell. I hope you like violence. Should be a fun one. Matheus Nicolau trying to make a title run, and Matt Danger Schnell is trying to stand strong with that gatekeeper role and spoil the party and prove that he belongs amongst the top of the division here. And it should be violent, it should be fun, and I can't wait for it. Matheus Nicolau took on David Dvorak his last fight. In the first round, he circles the fence, lands some hooks when pressed on the inside, but then he lands a counter left hook. Then in the second round, he gets wobbled with a leg kick. Then he lands a right hook when they're inside the pocket. Then he drops him with a step-in left hook at the end of the round. Then in the third round, he lands a straight right and then a left hook. Then he defends the double in the clinch attempt, and then he's able to circle out of the situation. And then his double attempt gets stuffed, but then he rolls through with a knee bar, can't get it though. But then he's on bottom in full guard. So kind of gives up a bad position for himself at the end there. And wasn't too active, to be honest. And then Matt Schnell took on Suma Darji his last fight. One of the craziest fights I've ever seen. In the first round, he gets pressured towards the cage, but then he draws out a hook from him, and then he gets the double and he takes his back, and then goes for the triangle, but then he gets reversed, but then he goes for the omoplata, and then uses it to get on top and land some ground and pound. And I love seeing guys go for submissions and then use them to escape and get to a better position. And then in the second round, he eats a short hook in the pocket, and then he gets dropped with the left cross, and then an elbow, and then he lands a cross to get him off of him, but then he gets rocked again, but then he lands an uppercut in the clinch, and then he rocks him with a straight right to a double into the full mount, elbows, vicious elbows, and then goes for the triangle, and then more elbows in the triangle, and then he gets a submission, makes him pass out. But in the second round, he got dropped like 3 times. Maybe not dropped, but like his hand touched the mat, so whatever you want to call that. But it looked like he was out, but he knows how to recover. He's a veteran. He's been there for a long time. So Matt Danger Schnell plus 300. Mateus Nicolau minus 365. I'm just going to go with Matt Schnell, dude. It's just, he can make it crazy. Plus 300 is a little disrespectful. Mateus Nicolau, not very active. He's got power. And Matt Schnell kind of just rushes at people. And Mateus is the type of guy that will catch you doing that. But Matt Schnell, decent, pretty good on the ground. Has submissions. You know, I like the odds. I mean, I'd probably favor Mateus, but plus 300 for Matt Schnell. You know, he takes damage. That's what he does. How is Mateus Nicolau going to hold up to that type of pressure and damage? But it's a flyweight fight, so under 2.5, minus 110. Can't go wrong. Matt Schnell plus 300, under 2.5, minus 110. On to the co-main event of the night at 170 pounds, men's welterweight. You got Brian Bam Bam Barberena taking on Rafael dos Anjos. The fight nobody really asked for. I'll watch it. I think it'll be interesting, but I don't know what it means for either guy. Rafael dos Anjos is the back half of his career. He just wants to have fun fights, doesn't want to cut weight. And Brian, you know, he's been on the Legend Killer tour, and this would be a big win for him. So should be fun, should be pretty violent. I'm excited. Brian Barberena took on Robbie Lawler his last fight. In the first round, he eats a hook to the body when he's coming in. They both land some straights on each other, but then he lands a clean 1-2 and then a leg kick right down the middle. But then he has his back to the fence, and he lands a long right hook, and he just starts ripping the body. But then he eats an uppercut. He eats a 1-2 on the fence, but then he returns some body hooks as a counter. And then in the second round, he gets rocked with jabs, and he misses his hook kind of wild. Then he walks through some shots, lands a lead elbow and then left cross, which rocks him from there. But then he lands a right hook and then a flurry on the fence and gets a TKO. And he just kind of walked through punches early. And then Robbie's kind of tired, or realized he wasn't going to knock him out. Then that's when he took over. And that's kind of what he does. He eats punches, and that's his thing. He's Bam Bam Barberena. And Rafael dos Anjos took on Rafael Fiziev his last fight. 5-round fight. I'm only going to look at 3. In the first round, he throws a cross and then a double to the clinch. Then he eats a jump knee and then a right cross coming in. But then he eats a left hook standing at range. Then in the second round, he jabs his way into a single leg. And then he gets around his back standing. Can't do much with that position. But then he eats a lead hook. But then he lands a jab. And then he shoots a double, but it gets defended with the wizard from Fiziev. And then he gets clinched. Then in the third round, he slips the hook and then gets a single to the clinch. And he has one leg in around his back, but he can't hold him again. Then he eats some jabs at range, and he misses a cross. But then he gets body locked to the fence, but he keeps the overhook and is able to defend there. But he gets kept at bay with some body kicks from Fiziev. So it's kind of tentative in that performance. But, Fiziev's really good. Rafael dos Anjos, minus 560. Brian Barberena, plus 420. Yeah, so Rafael is moving up from 55 to 70, but he's been at 70 before, so I don't really think that's an issue. The price is a little ridiculous, but realistically, Bam Bam's going to have to knock him out, and I don't think he's going to. And if you watch RDA versus Moicano, that was just a systematic breakdown of a guy. I think it's going to be similar to that. I think he's going to get in his face. I think he's going to jab him up, piece him up inside, and then he's going to go for a takedown, so he's go for the clinch, beat him up in the clinch. He's going to shoot a lot. Brian's takedown defense isn't great. Brian might clip him with a shot or two. But, Bam Bam definitely has a chance, has a puncher's chance, but I just don't see it going any other way for RDA. Watch me be wrong. Watch me be the biggest upset on the card, but I'm going to go with RDA here. But you want to go decision, minus 125. Brian's a very tough guy. RDA doesn't finish a ton. I think that's a good play. I'm going to go with RDA and decision, minus 125. The main event of the evening at 170 pounds, men's welterweight, you got Stephen Wonderboy Thompson taking on Kevin Trailblazer Holland. I mean, it's just a fun one, man. Kind of unexpected, but Stephen Thompson is still ranked like 6th, I believe. So, and Kevin's unranked at 170, so, this is his time to take advantage of an aging fighter in a very high spot. Stephen Thompson's still very dangerous, but definitely past his prime, let's be real, coming off of 2 losses. But should be a fun fight. Both guys are strikers. Kevin took on Hamza Chimaev on short notice and got rolled through from it. And the UFC threw him a bone here, I guess, and gave him a striker only. So should be fun. Should be violent. I'm excited. 2 fun guys. let's see a good scrap. Stephen Thompson took on Bilal Muhammad his last fight. This was a little while ago, like a year ago. In the first round, he gets pressure to the fence, but he stuffs the initial double, and then he lands some 1-2s. Then he bites on Bilal's hook feint, and then he gets doubled while he's circling away on the cage. But he has his back to the fence. He's able to stand up, but then he stays clinched, and then he gets taken down again from there, and then needs some ground and pound from back him out, like a ton of shots, not a lot of power on them, just kind of sat there and covered up, and really didn't do too much to defend or get out of the position. Then in the second round, he has a wide stance at range, but he backs up, lands some head kicks and some straight rights, and then he lands a slide in 1-2, but then he gets doubled from there, and then he defends the Kimura attempts in half guard, but can't really do too much from there, and then, kind of rushing in and giving Bilal that double. Then in the third round, he gets pressed, but he lands a 1-2, but then he gets clinched and doubled after that. Then he gets back to his feet, and then he's able to stuff the takedown attempt with a guillotine, and then he's able to land a 1-2 off of there, but then he gets doubled again right after that. So, some decent things to stop the wrestling, but, Bilal really is a very good wrestler, so. And then Kevin Holland took on Tim Means. Well, actually took on Hamzat. We don't count that fight. Before I took on Tim Means. In the first round, he lands a short hook to the body, and then he goes to the clinch whenever he gets pressed, and then he just kind of breaks out of it. And then he lands a short hook, defends the double against the fence, but then he gets up from the double, lands a hook flurry, presses him, lets him have it. Then he lands a head kick, and then an overhand right, then a left hook, and then a right cross. Great combination. And then he feints the takedown, kind of just like taps his leg, and then he rocks him with a straight right down to the round. Beautiful timing on that. Then the second round, he lands some straights to a body lock, and then he crowds the fence and just kind of pressures him and looks for a shot, and then he rocks him with a straight right whenever he comes into him, and then he's able to jump on the Darce submission. So, and doesn't waste his time trying to punch out, pulls that Darce, man, and while he's hurt. So club and sub, great technique from him. Kevin Trailblazer -175, Stephen Thompson +150. Who knows? Both guys have 5-round experience. Both guys have solid cardio. I think Thompson's probably the better technical striker. I like his wide stance, and he'll come in and throw shots right down the middle. And Kevin Holland kind of waits for guys to come into him and tries to hit with some hooks and kind of waits to flurry at times. Kevin Holland, not a great wrestler, but he decent submission skills, and he can get people to the ground, decent in the clinch. I think that would be a slight advantage for him. Stephen Thompson, usually has great takedown defense, but he's been fighting some really good wrestlers lately, and he's aging a little bit, so don't know if Kevin can really get him down, but I think Kevin will be able to at least clinch him up here. And it's a tough one. Skill-wise, I'm going to go with a narrative. Kevin Holland, the young guy coming up, trying to make a name for himself. Stephen Thompson, a little bit weathered. I think Thompson hits a little bit harder. I think he pressures him a little bit more. But 5 rounds should be interesting. It could go either way, but I'm going to go with Kevin Holland here. I feel confident, and he has those submission skills in his back pocket if he needs them. But it should be a fun fight, and can't wait. And, can't be mad if either guy wins. Both great guys. All right, everyone. Thanks for riding with me. I appreciate it. Check the description. Please like, share, subscribe. I really appreciate it. Leave a comment. Let me know what's going on. Give me some advice. I'll always take it. Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, all that stuff. Find me on there. I'll give out some tips so you can ask me questions on there. Appreciate everybody. I did my research, did my homework. Really want to win some money. We got 14 chances here. Let's see some upsets. Let's see some violence. And let's see some profits. Good luck, everyone. Get rich.